Traditionally, intensive outpatient is designed to deliver chemical dependency treatment services for people in a community-based setting or people exiting or leaving residential treatment and re-entering the community. Traditionally, you may, it's a combination of individual and group therapy. You may get individual therapy, you may not. And it can kind of become a sort of a generic or cookie cutter type approach. What makes the last resort different from that is all of our clients participating in our intensive outpatient are guaranteed individual therapy. And we try and be intentional or deliberate about focusing on men and men's issues. And we also just take an alternative approach in a handful of different ways. We find that it's very important to include mindfulness-based concepts, meditation groups. We want to emphasize trauma resolution, anxiety reduction, and as always, being grounded in the principles of 12-step recovery, and designing a program and a system of service delivery that really lives up to those standards and really meets the needs and the changing needs and growing needs of our client population. People are most likely to relapse into old behaviors and using patterns within the first 4 to 6 weeks of leaving treatment. And so the goal is to provide support when it is most needed, transitioning from one location or level of care to the next. And so a person is less likely to return to use patterns or behavior patterns if they have the support that they need going through that transition. We know that it can oftentimes be scary and challenging, and people facing recovery and experiencing recovery and applying sobriety for the first time in the real world. And so our hope is that we can be there to help people and to guide people through that transition, to make that landing a little bit more simple, easy, smooth, and again, just to ensure that we're doing everything we can to give the needed support to clients transitioning from one location to the next. Services at our intensive outpatient are centered mostly around group and individual therapy, specifically the application of clinical modalities that include cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy, mindfulness-based therapy and meditation groups, trauma resolution therapy, specifically EMDR, motivational interviewing, and really any handful of modalities or approaches that we feel the client needs based upon what they're reporting. What really makes us different from other outpatient providers is that we are gender specific, and more specifically, we're gender responsive. So we treat men and men only at this level of care and at these locations, and we do our best to be very responsive to men's needs. Men and women respond to drugs and use drugs and alcohol differently. They respond to their circumstances differently. They respond to their environments differently. And so we want to really do our best to hone in on the issues that men most often face when going through the recovery process. So specifically, we try and emphasize the importance of certain principles like honesty and vulnerability and openness. And I think for me, probably the most important is developing a sense of emotional intelligence. And again, when you're able to focus on one gender specifically, it alleviates or removes a lot of struggles, obstacles, or challenges you might face in a co-ed setting. One of the inherent benefits of delivering treatment services in a community-based setting is that it allows people to access treatment services that might not have the ability to leave their families or their jobs or school for an extended period of time. It grants people the freedom and oftentimes the needed autonomy to engage in treatment services and to start the recovery process while not neglecting the everyday responsibilities of, again, being a father, being a husband, being an employee. And we understand that oftentimes it's just not feasible or possible for people to engage in an intensive residential setting. And so again, we've done our best to provide an environment that serves a broader or wider range of people. We have really talented and really special individuals that work at the last resort that really care about our clients, and it shows. Working at the last resort is a mission, it's a purpose, it's a vision, it's a philosophy. It's not just a job to our staff members, and again, you can see it in the work they do. We're proud of our outcomes, we're proud of our successful outcomes, we're proud of the proportion of successful outcomes. And so watching people restore and repair their lives, and being a part of that process is something that I wouldn't trade for the world. We want to help men find recovery. We want to help men get well. We want to help men restore their lives. We want to help people, again, men specifically that are sick and suffering, find healing. And by adding these services, it gives us the opportunity to do so on a larger scope with a wider or a broader range of men in different settings. And one of our overarching goals is to always improve our outcomes, improve our efficacy, to get better, to impact more lives, to impact a higher proportion of more lives. And so we believe that by adding these services, it will allow us to get better at what we do, to reach more people, and again, to improve our outcomes in general, and to improve our efficacy overall.